Good morning. This is Talking Devils, your favourite Manchester United podcast. I'm your host, Wayne Barton, joined by Manchester United legend Paul Parker. Paul, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you, Wayne.
What have you been up to this weekend?
Well, just the one game yesterday. No, nothing on Saturday, which was a welcome change, to be perfectly honest. Especially as I kind of let myself go a little bit on Friday. So waking up Saturday, I don't think if I'd had a game, if I'd sang on, I wouldn't have done. But I just had someone who one of my good mates from Singapore come across and stayed.
Nice.
So we ended up with a bit of rum.
Ever the professional. I wonder, 48 hours before kickoff, right? That was the rule.
Not really. No, that changed a bit. Not even then. I mean, it changed from when I was. Yeah, I think it was virtually on the way of being pushed back to a Wednesday. And
Yeah,
before, to be honest, it was a night before, like a Friday. You never went out on a Friday. As soon as I went up to United, I virtually got told by the lads, you're not out on the Thursday unless you may be in a restaurant with your wife.
yeah.
Uh,
No, I was referencing the 80s with that one.
yeah,
I don't know how many, but we'll have a fair few listeners and viewers from the 80s, I'm sure. But I remember that. And then it was a Tuesday club, wasn't it? Was it Robbo's Tuesday Club?
yeah.
Say no more. These stories can be kept for books, and they are. Um, you can get Paul Parker's autobiography out now, all good places. And on tables as well, by the way, I forgot to tell you this. I do send Paul updates when I see the book out and about in Manchester, but it was on a. It's very good when it gets on a table, because I don't know, authors little thrills like that. If you get a book on a table, it always feels like an extra buzz. And Paul's was on. I'll send you the picture of it after this, Paul. Anyway, I'm going to run through a few of the events of the day to take over the daily podcast like I normally do in the morning. So Paul can just sit back and relax for 2 minutes while I do it. Jeremy Jacquet, who was linked to United, defender, centre back. He's going to Liverpool. They've signed him for 60 million, but he won't be joining until the summer. United, this is such a nonsense report, comes from Spain. United will not be able to prevent Marcus Rashford from staying at Barcelona if the Spanish club offer 30 million euros under the terms of his loan agreement. We knew that. I mean, that's the point of having the fee in the loan. Although I must say, I did laugh very loudly at a tweet from a Chelsea fan saying Chelsea have got an option to to terminate Garnacho's agreement and not pay the fee. You know, like they did with Sancho last season.
Mm.
Sorry, lads, you've got him permanently now. Um, United's women made it 4 consecutive wins in all competitions. They won 3-1 against Liverpool yesterday. Knowles with 2 second-half goals and Rolfo right at the end. On this day, a few happy birthdays. Gerard Piqué, Ravel Morrison. I was looking up Ravel, and he only played 3 times for United. I thought he played a few more than
Mm.
that, but what a talent he should have been. Cameron Borthwick Jackson played a few more. Recently part of that Macclesfield success, wasn't he? And Shola Shoretire, he's also having a happy birthday today, hopefully. A few debuts on this day in history. Nikola Jovanovic, who was touted as the first ever overseas player to play for the club centre back with a bad back. I know the feeling, Nicola. Terry Gibson made his debut, short-term signing. Now, obviously, he was with Wimbledon and did very well there, but prominent Spanish football pundit. My favourite debutant of this day, 1929, so nearly 100 years ago. Tommy Reid, who was a former Liverpool striker, was in dire straits, and we signed him, and his goals kept United up. In fact, he was built like an heavyweight boxer, and scored the goals that kept United up. Famous games on this day in United history: we beat Southampton 9-0 5 years ago today, and on this day in 1957, we played Manchester City at Main Road. We won 4-2. Billy Whelan, Tommy Taylor, Dennis Violet, and Duncan Edwards scored. It was the 1,000th victory in Manchester United history. And I'm not quite sure what yesterday's was, but it was definitely a victory for United. 3-2 against Fulham. We said it'd be a tough game, and it was, but United answered the questions that were asked of them. And we'll get to that right now. Robbie says, nice day off today, lads. Oh, yeah, it's St. Bridget's Day in Ireland. Yep, so I'll be celebrating over there. Dave will be. That's why he's not here. Celebrating. Why wouldn't you? You guys have got a lot of bank holidays, haven't you? And Saints days. Probably as many as us. I'm not complaining. So United 3-2 against Fulham. 2-0 up. Casemiro scores with a header after a free kick's awarded when it was originally deemed a penalty. Cunha then scores in the second half. Casemiro hits this great through pass, and Cunha's finishes a fantastic rocket into the net. And then Fulham came back into the game. Disallowed goal, penalty, goal, incredible goal, reminiscent of the one that was it Everton who scored one almost identical to it a few months ago, Old Trafford. Almost the goal was almost exactly the same. And then straight away United attacked, and Sesko had been brought on as a sub, scored the winner, and hopefully be good for him. We'll talk about all that, of course. But on the game itself, sometimes you can learn more in defeat than victory, Paul. But also there are ways to win, and we've seen poor ways to win over recent months. There will be a time and place for 2-0s, hopefully. It's not going to be too long away as well, hopefully. But maybe it was better this time around that we won the way that we did. Again, he made the changes like for like, not throwing on lots of defenders. Even when it was 2-0, he tried to sort of keep the shape of the team as it was. Ultimately, those subs and the timing of those subs won the game, even if you could say the timing of the subs also threw it back into the balance with Agate coming on for Casemiro. You can learn more in games like this. And obviously, we can't discard the thrill of winning in the last minute. It always adds to the momentum. So, I mean, at one point, it looked like a routine 2-0, but it ends up being a 3-2 exciting last-minute victory. We'll talk about the events, the VAR incidents. We'll talk about Bruno and Casemiro in a bit. But what did you make of winning the way that we did?
That's what people pay good money for. It's what people want to see in this moment in time, isn't it? Games like that, to be perfectly honest. You talk about entertaining games. You would look at the Arsenal game, what you had about it because of the two sides. You would look at something that was being missed for so long was the 4-4 with Bournemouth, which a lot of people took because of the goals involved. But you look at that game and it was just kind of in a way wide open without the goalkeepers really being utilised much. But, both teams were getting to the edge of the box and little bits at the end, poor decisions, whatever, quality going in was poor. But it was a good game. And if it ended up a draw, I think a lot of people, you have to be honest and say that would have been fair if it was a draw, especially the way that Fulham started the second half as well.
Yeah.
To be honest, they started it really, really well. And then once they scored that first goal, once they got their first goal, then United changed. They went and sat back and they allowed them. And that is the big problem when you got people in there who are content to sit back in, and you can't sit back in. You just can't do it. The best can't do it all the time because you're going to get caught out in the end. And can United defend that way? Previous records say they can't keep clean sheets. And as you saw, their strength was always going forward. The moment the game went to 2-2, what happens? They step forward and they make an opportunity just like that. So sometimes when as you see sometimes, even at the Emirates, they step forward. They didn't step back. If they had a step back against Arsenal, there's every chance they would have conceded, 1 or 2 for the fact of it would have suited Arsenal more to sit back in there and allow the ball if they were to whack it in the box. Not that Fulham do that, but in a way you have to turn around and say it was always going to be difficult because it was a lot of people were nervous on the fact of the 2 previous games made people nervous about this game because it was the game, the one where people were going to be very, very judgmental about it. Was it as good a performance as what people saw against Arsenal? I think a lot of people say no because they don't look at Fulham being like Arsenal. But when you look at the onus that was on United, you have to say that all round it was good. It was good in that way. But again, Spurs the next game, if I'm correct, that's given everything with Spurs at the moment, they're in that kind of nothing to lose scenario. I think I saw that the way they were yesterday. It was that kind of game where everything said it was going to fall into their lap because it's Man City and they kind of got something over them. Can they go and do it again? Well, we'll find out at some point. But in a lot of the game, going back to the game, I was quite pleased because I was really worried about that game 2 years ago at Old Trafford playing Fulham, and you suddenly see that they go and equalise. You think, oh, not again. Not again. Saying that, though, United were seriously poor in that game anyway, but you thought that couldn't happen again with Fulham. One winning God knows how many years, and you thought yourself, are they going to go and do it again? But I would say everyone is happy given that point. 3 on the bounce now for Michael Carrick. Maybe calm down a bit and, naming him manager. Let's just keep, the main thing is to keep going and try and get as many wins between now and have the conversation in the summer rather than making it a headline story every time Manchester United win a game.
Yeah, no, I'm completely with you on that. Would you say that there's probably better value for Carrick going forward in like learning more about himself and his decisions, and I'm not going to say getting away with one because I don't think he did that. I really don't believe that. I think he made the decisions and we won the game because of it. And we played all right, and like you said, like as soon as they needed to switch it on, they did, and get that goal. Do you think there's more value in winning the way that we did than what it would have been if we'd have gone to if we'd have won 2-0, great, fine, but winning 3-2 after they'd come back, it tells us a lot more, gives us more answers about the team. It's more positive feeling this morning than it would have been if it was 2-0.
Yeah, I think you saw a little bit more about individuals, and you look at them and you think to yourself, if you could just tweak, you can see more about individuals and say a tweak there could make a difference to what happens about going further up the table. It was more easy to see. And the fact of the way it worked out, and for Šeško to score as well in the manner he did, that gives an opportunity for him to elevate from there, to be perfectly honest. I think he needed something to score a goal like that as well. And he is one of them. And I screamed. I had the mic at my mouth and I screamed at one point when he's made this incredible run, and it was Luke Shaw had the ball on the left, and all he had to do was and he made that run. He was virtually pointing where he wanted the ball, and it was in behind. It was in behind the fullback and the right centre half. Just pull it, and Luke Shaw stopped and went left.
Yeah,
and that's his strength. And we've already, in a way, haven't helped a centre forward who's now on loan at Napoli because we never got the ball going early enough when they make the runs. In that scenario, and that's Luke Shaw still caught up in this sideward backwards football. And it was that moment to do it. And he made that run. You saw his disappointment, and his disappointment wasn't shown by waving his arm or kind of standing there and putting his arms out. He made another move.
Yeah.
He changed his run again, which Højlund didn't do. He just shrugged his arms down and did everything to show his disappointment. But he made another run. So I just don't want lose another centre forward because he's not getting the ball enough. And as you see, you get the ball into a box early, it's going to make a difference to players, and it gives you more opportunities because defenders can't sometimes, a lot of time, how good they are, can't deal with early balls.
Yeah. The first touch that Šeško had, he hit the post, didn't he? Ahmad with the cross and great header.
It wasn't the thing. I turned around and the words I kind of used to describe that, there was a lot of people who would have just headed it.
Yeah.
He headed it and he knew where he wanted to go. He was aiming for that spot, and it was a margin. That goes in and people rave about the header because he knew exactly what he wanted. And he's got that. It's all there. You think that, everyone keeps using it, and I hate that word. There's another word I hate, which has happened in football, which is business orientated recruitment. I hate that word. It's just absolutely sounds terrible when it's with football. It doesn't make sense. But the goals, everything about him, if you did a showcase of him, you look at the goals he scored, he doesn't get enough of the ball. No one respects the ability that lad's got. You know, he goes in behind people. He hits things early because everything's hit early in Germany because of the high lines. So, you know, that's about it. And hopefully Michael Carrick has realised that. And at the moment, there's no great demand. It's not as if there's a desperation moment to push for him to start. But if he earns the right to play off the back of United's performances at this moment in time, it tells you the team's improving.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think also it stands to Carrick's, from what we've seen in the first couple of weeks, decent man management that, you know, he's given Cunha game time. You know, we've seen him make impacts. I thought he was quite disappointing yesterday. I'm saying this as Cunha's biggest fan. Like, I hate saying it, so please. But the finish was absolutely outstanding once he got into the area. So I could see why he got brought off. I didn't think he was so sloppy sometimes on the ball and sometimes out of the game as well. So they've got to work on that. I can understand why he had to be picked. But we'll talk about that, the selection, because that was pretty much the enforced selection with Dogu missing with the hamstring injuries as he is. And apart from that, Maguire was kept in and Casemiro kept in, obviously. Everything kept the way that it was, and you could understand it. We talked about this last week and we're saying, well, what do you stand to gain or lose? You probably stand to gain more by only making the change that you're forced to make. Because if he'd made too many changes from the start, we'd be talking about that this morning and saying that, you know, United they were quite disappointed in the way that they let it slip because of changing it when you didn't need to change it. But those are the lessons that he's learning, and hopefully you learn them. Apart from, like, you know, we've seen so many times, at least Carrick knows this club, and he's been to the games, he's seen, you know, I think the season ticket holders there, so he's seen this team enough. It's not like you need to be told the problems that you have when you've got Dalot, Maguire, and Agate on the side, or consistently giving chances to players who've had loads of chances already. I'm just going to come to a couple of points here from Patrick because it leads me into what we're going to be talking about anyway. He says, good morning, good to get 3 points. I was slightly concerned with the move that led to Fulham's penalty. Jimenez in behind Dalot and Maguire with a lot of grass. Is Euro better for pace at Old Trafford? Also, is Agate regressing by the game or week? We never look solid when he comes on. He's supposed to be a defensive midfielder. Casemiro is due an apology from Carragher for disrespecting May 24. Yeah, you don't see him saying the football's left Van Dijk, do you? By the way, May 24, so we're going on like definitely over a year and a half of me being appalled by the fact that he said that. And what was he said? He said loads of things about Casemiro. Anyway, not very good. Morning, Martin. Hope you're doing well, mate. Yeah. So we'll talk about the selection then, Paul. Obviously, I don't think we're going to be in disagreement here that he should have kept the side the way that it was. We can understand why he did that. But also, we are learning that, yeah, all right, it might have been better to start with Mazraoui. He might do that next week against Spurs. It might be better to start with Euro. Unfortunately, Delit's not going to be fit. Difficult for Evan, but maybe he could get in as well, theoretically, over Maguire on the right-hand side, because, you know, we saw a couple of times it caused United issues. There was one moment in the second half where the cross came in and Maguire was, this is before the penalty, before anything else, where Maguire was really late in dealing with it. So there are a couple of those, and obviously Dalot's Dalot. You know what you're going to get from him. You're going to get effort, but not a lot of quality. So you can see where he's going to make those changes. And also Agate, I mean, we've been saying that how many times this season. We're never comfortable, even when we've had a 2-0 lead in some games. You bring him on, and I don't even want, like, I'm not into catastrophizing, so I'm not going to be digging out the stats to tell us how many leads we've lost in positions when Agate has been brought onto the pitch, or how many positive situations have turned into negative situations. But it does seem like a lot, and he just can't do the job, because United are still playing with a two-man midfield, and there was a hope when Fletcher moved in. I think Casemiro and Agate played together. You thought, well, there might be something in there if one of them's sitting. But it hasn't turned out like that, and it wasn't like that under Carrick, for the better, because obviously it turned out to be more ambitious and we won the game in the end, but not for the fact that we had those players on the pitch when they don't really contribute to a game at Old Trafford that is comfortable, if that's the kindest way to say it. They've obviously got the place in the squad moving forward to the end of the season. Do you think that's a lesson that Carrick has to learn, like, now? Like, he probably has to make those changes for the Spurs game next week. I mean, I'm not saying they were awful, but you can see why you need to make those changes, or like maybe think twice before bringing Agate on.
I think he will. I think he knows about that now as well, and I think he knows the crowd's feeling, especially for games in a certain situation. You bring him on it, he carries that with him now. That when he comes on, United are going to concede. It's the way it's been. He's just unlucky to fall into that one. Wasn't that saying similar what they talked about with Gareth Bale? Wasn't it at Spurs? That come up. I think even they weren't every game he started, they weren't winning. They wasn't winning games of football. All of a sudden, it changes, and so I personally only want him to make changes because he has to, or it's obvious because someone's off form. There's not enough games to start talking about. I want to do this with the squad. I want to do that. Just get what you deem as your team, your best possible team to win you a game of football, 100%. Not because you feel you need to rest somebody, or you feel you need, or you just need, I don't know, to look at somebody. Because at the end of it, everyone knows those players, and the ones that should come in are the younger ones. You would look at, I would look at more at Heaven playing next to Martinez.
Yeah.
Because a little bit of authority next to him, and I think it would lift him like that to do that. I would look at him instead of Maguire because you're playing a long game. Definitely Mazraoui at right back because there's more guarantee that you got someone who can defend first, and he's got that little bit of quality as well on the other side. And anything other, of course, and you do look at Cunha on that side, but there's no one to come in on that side really. So and what he has got though, Cunha, he would drive you mad if you played against him because he never stops running. You can see. I mean, what summed him up to me for what for him as a person, and for the fact of he's loving where he is, was the goal that Casemiro scored. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Did you see what he with his head?
Yeah,
absolutely. I was just there, and it's absolutely incredible. You see people go in and hug or something. He was just there, and you thought yourself, all right, move on now, get back with stuff. It was, and he's got that about him. I'll still look. Left back is a big issue.
Yeah,
a massive issue. Left back, without a shadow of a doubt, it is a big issue, and something that's got to be sorted for next season.
He can't do anything now, can he?
He can't. No, he can't do anything because he's lost. Because Dorgu's gone now, so he hasn't got that flexibility there. And then you look at it, it's got even worse. You'll turn around and you'd think to yourself, well, maybe you'd give Amas, you'd mostly look at there, but obviously the lad's got a serious injury now as well. So I don't know how he's going to be. He's out on loan, and you're looking for him to go to his next loan club and get going again and take it another bit, and straight away that's his season over. So left back is another one, and Carrick or the new manager comes in. What are their thinkings there? Because you can look at it now and say, well, it's not as bad. It doesn't look anywhere near as bad as what it did before. And every time they play a game, they look capable of winning a game, where before it was fingers crossed and hope they get the first goal. And at worst, they might concede and it might be 1-1. Yeah. That's how it was. That's how it was before. But there's still that bit there where it cost them. I was just going to say something else. I thought, no, I better leave it because you'll bring that in a bit later on.
Yeah, Patrick says apparently United have conceded 24 goals when Agate has been on the pitch this season. Don't want to put it all down to him, but perhaps confidence is an issue, just a concern. Yeah, but also the confidence it gives the opposition. Like if you see him come on, you think you can harass him, he's not going to be good on the ball. That's where United are vulnerable in that area of the pitch. If you think Agate usually plays on the right-hand side, so you've got a triumvirate of players you can get at where United are vulnerable, and that's what Fulham did. And by the way, like you said earlier, Paul, if we were talking about United 2, Fulham 2 this morning, we're not complaining because Fulham outpassed United, they outshot United. On the basis of the game, they probably deserve something from it. I'm not saying United didn't deserve to win either, because I think Carrick's ambition they did. I just think it was a good game of football, and I think Fulham were game for it. You've seen teams not do anything at 2-0, they're just going to self-preservation and get through the game and move on to the next one. But Fulham, you could see why they are where they are, and that's without condescension. They were really good, and they were also grumbling about the VAR. So we'll talk about the VAR quickly before we talk about some of the positives in United. I mean, I don't know how much we want to go into it. There was the United penalty that was overturned. I think that was. I can't really disagree with any of the decisions, really. Actually, ironically enough, I don't disagree with the penalty because I think he's followed through. I can understand why he's given that. Even I thought it was a good save from Lemons. I don't understand fully, but Maguire did take him out, so maybe they're saying it affected his ability to shoot. So fair enough on that one. The Fulham goal is the one I can understand the letter of the law. You can't complain with the letter of the law, but it's the letter of the law that's screwed for me. I think, like I was talking about this before the game with Rory. Funnily enough, he's in his Casemiro mood this morning. He says, "Good morning, goody morning." But I was saying, that the issue with VAR with the offside should be put back to what Wenger was saying. Like put the daylight between the players, like so you can actually see something in there, rather than this, because he's not got an advantage from that position. He hasn't got an advantage. So, by the letter of the law, it has to be disallowed. So the VAR isn't wrong on that, and I think Silva was complaining afterwards, saying that they invented a foul. No, I'm not sure. I just think, like, in that position, what is he meant to do? For me, I think they probably got it right on the basis of VAR has to make a decision. There was nothing there that says that that was the wrong decision. I just think sometimes it doesn't need to intervene. What did you make of the incidents with VAR yesterday?
Well, on the offside one, I always look at the players, and straight away, Martinez gets the ball, he sees it's a goal, and he just drops the ball. He just leaves it there. He just throws it back just to whatever. He's frustrated because they're conceded. The players had turned around and accepted it was a goal. That's what they've done. They accepted it. It wasn't margin. It was just, as far as I'm concerned, they're on side. And how it took that long when they're meant to have automated, I really don't understand how it took that long.
Yeah.
Just absolutely just doing my brains in. Is that all these people, these referees, all the ones who work in VAR, they've got every chance of going and work for the NHS, because middle management make decisions and it takes them that long, doesn't it? In NHS, that's why nothing ever gets done. It's absolutely, you don't need that many chefs in the kitchen to look at something. It's absolutely ridiculous, absolutely mad. And you could see, even when you look at the automated, you're kind of going, now, come on, that's ridiculous. That's picking at things, That's just not right. I look at the one where they gave the free kick, and I'm a little bit with the Fulham manager on that one with Silva, because everyone does that. You're there, you're doing that. The moment you get a bit, you let go because you know that you're going to well, not so much. I'm talking about me there. I'm thinking to myself, no, you wouldn't, because they wouldn't really go down on that. They'd keep going and going to see if they could stretch it to make it obvious. But there was enough there to say that's not a foul. And plus the fact of he's carried on, and it's gone out if it goes out for a corner, I guarantee they would have given the corner.
Yeah.
Guarantee, because it was, again, Klenker, is it? Yeah, Klenker. Yeah. He had two of those occasions, didn't he? Those ones. But everything was right. And it should have been a goal kick to Fulham, as far as I'm concerned, not a free kick. And I'm with Marco Silva. I think that was made up to cover themselves. And if it's coming to that, then it isn't really working if they feel they've got to do that to cover up. Like that, really, that's totally wrong. Give the goal kick. No one talks about it anymore. But because of the fact that they've gone and virtually brought it on themselves now, because the free kick, Casemiro goes and scores with a great header again, they cause more problems for themselves. Just be honest about it. But if you're gonna give that when players are running like that, you're going to be stopping the game every 2-3 seconds. But they don't. It wouldn't happen if that was middle of the park. It wouldn't happen around there. Wouldn't at all. But there you go.
Casemiro, though, you said brilliant header. Casemiro and Bruno, I thought, were outstanding. Casemiro and Manu in the middle. This idea that Manu couldn't play in a midfield too just seems more laughable by the week because he's been outstanding since he's been recalled into the team. I thought it was great, but Casemiro's experience just shines through. And Bruno, sometimes we have things with Bruno where we go, oh, has he done? Is the histrionics in here? Is there some bad of Bruno? But yesterday, I thought it was brilliant throughout, and 2 assists again. The one for Sesko's winner was great because he could have gone down, but he kept going. A great pass. We know that he's capable of that. What did you make yesterday of the outstanding plays for United?
Oh, I'm with you. Bruno done his bit with the ball. I think he lacked a bit without the ball because Fulham had so much possession and their positive possession.
Yeah.
I think there was times when he tried too hard to join in, and you see him always behind the play when Fulham was attacking on certain bits, and there were the little bits there, but you can't, as far as I'm concerned, you got to look at the step forward. The midfielders step forward. Yeah. Similar personnel, but it's step forward. As an attacking unit, it has definitely stepped forward. It's as simple as that. There's more attacking options than what there was in the other system. It doesn't mean the other system wasn't right, but it just didn't suit the players involved, really, mentally or physically. It just didn't suit them.
Yeah.
So on that side of it, but it looks better on that side of it. Am I looking forward to the Spurs game, and how negative am I about the Spurs game, regardless of Spurs form? I have to say, if things were the same, I would turn around and say we could be in for another European final of 2 poor teams. Who's going to be the better this time? Maybe the team with a home advantage. But I don't think I have to go anywhere near that, to be perfectly honest. I mean, I'd look at it and I can only see one winner with the game against Spurs at this moment in time.
Yeah, hopefully that's United. Patrick says, RE the left back, take it. Diego Leon is not ready for first team football yet. Not sure he's been doing well. Malassi's been on the 23s, hasn't he? So it tells you like he's not ready yet. Talk about Benjamin Sesko then. Obviously, he's been biding his time. Talks about like him not getting his chance, and I mean he's come on in the games. He can't say that he's not been given the chance to be on the pitch at least. But obviously in difficult circumstances at Arsenal, different circumstances yesterday, and he made an immediate impact with the effort that he had. And like I said, he was making runs. There is one thing about him that's different to Højlund and Xerxes that. And this is going to sound like a really basic comparison, but hopefully you'll pick it up and run with it and not make it sound stupid. He looks like a proper centre forward, whereas the other two look like they were trying to. Either Xerxes looked like he was playing at it, like trying to think, and Højlund looked like he was.
He couldn't do it.
What's that?
He couldn't do it. He looked like someone who couldn't do it.
And he was too young. He was asking too much of him to do it. Like maybe he's got the raw ability, but not asking him to be a centre forward for United. I'm not saying Sesko's he looks like a Ruud van Nistelrooy, but he looks like a centre forward playing the role what he's meant to be playing. So and then obviously the goal will do him the world of good, right? Even if he's back on the bench next week. I don't think that's necessarily a negative thing. I mean, there's an argument to start him, and I'm not arguing against that, but I'm saying either way, it doesn't feel like it's a negative thing at the moment. He's come in, scored a goal, proved value to the team, and we might stick with Mbeumo next week on the right-hand side, or we might put Ahmad on the bench to freshen it up and give a little bit of rotation to give players a chance who deserved a chance. But you're not going to argue either way, and I think that's good man management from Carrick. I mean, the upshot of this is that a goal like that and a winning goal like that in injury time is going to do him the world of good, right?
Yeah, 100%. And you are right about that. There's no need to suddenly feel you've got to go and start him because you've gone and scored a goal like that. Everything says about the team at the moment is that he's got no reason to be knocking at the door at the moment. He did prior. He had every opportunity to knock at the door before and say, "Oh, minute, what's going on here?" Yeah. And I thought he was going to virtually get like a Van a Van der Beek scenario was that you bring someone over and, they're way, they're maybe a 1,000 odd miles away from home and a little bit lonely and whatever, and you're leaving them out of it. And the thing you need when you do anything like that is straight away is to get in the mix, even though you haven't got any, and all of a sudden you, for a little while, that unity becomes your family until such time you get yourself into it. But at the moment, the way the team is and there's smiles everywhere, is making it easier for everyone to bed in, and definitely him at this moment. So he wouldn't be knocking at the door saying, I deserve this and I deserve that, because the performances since Michael's come in, he can't really say, even when, he didn't come on. I didn't bring him on to save the game. It wasn't about that. It was at the right timing to do it. But all of a sudden, things changed a bit. So, no, you are right in saying that it's not a do or die scenario at the moment in time, like it was when always chasing Hoyland or should be Jertsky. You didn't know, and both of them have struggled. You look at Jertsky as well. They should have, in theory, he should have been on loan somewhere. Yeah. They should have done, for his sake, everything, because all he's doing is sitting there. I look at his body shape, and unless he's got the drive himself to push himself, he needs to play games of football to keep his mind right, to keep his fitness right, and then to do the work as well to get out of those minutes. Just to bring him on as a sub now, would he be dynamic enough to do anything for you? I'd have to say no.
I don't understand. There's still a few hours left in the window, of course, as the time of us recording this. As an asset, so all parties must accept he's going to move on in the summer. As an asset, surely it's better for him to move on loan and show what he can do somewhere else, because he's just not going to get that chance at United. Very quickly then, before we go, how would you... there's a lot of comments about what we do next week, about bringing in Mazraoui, about bringing in... We said Heaven maybe from the start. Are those the changes that you'd make next week, just defensively, just Mazraoui and Heaven in?
Yeah, they're the only ones I'd make. What you got going forward, you don't want to lose that at a moment in time, because again, there's a little bit of unity. Everything's together there, and they're a threat. You don't want to lose that too much defensively. People you can see the weaknesses as good as you can still see, and you got to look at the longevity really. Mazraoui playing in the back four at the moment is definitely, you need him in that team, because as well he's got that little bit about him. He's a leader in the way he plays, not a shouter and screamer, just the way he runs. He never stops running. He's like Muniz at Crystal Palace. He never stops running on that right hand side. And he's like that, Mazraoui, as well. And I just think you need someone with that kind of drive. And he's one of them who leads by example in that way. And I think he'd make a difference on that right-hand side. He'd make a difference to Ahmad as well, with Ahmad's playing. Someone who's very clever in what they do, not someone who runs for the sake of running. You would definitely have to... You'd look at Heaven, because he's out the team, but he was playing well. Yeah. At that given time. So you think yourself, I think he needs something now on that side of it. And I'm saying that because of, yes, he played well, but I like him more than Euro.
Yeah.
At this moment in time, I'm
more inclined to think that Carrick will go with Euro, considering he's been bringing him on. Even though I'm agreeing with you, I would put Evan in, but it looks like, if you're following the trail of what Carrick's more likely to do, if he's going to take Maguire out, it'll probably be Euro who comes in.
Yeah, but you are right when you look at it like that. But I look at Euro, and he's got more of a arrogance about the way he plays. He's got belief in his ability. He's very comfortable with the ball, and just by the way, when he gets it, when he does step out, and that will mostly grow with him as he matures. You can see that he wants to do it, and he's happy to go forward. I look at Euro, and Euro's first thought as he steps out is to look sideways and to backwards. He doesn't really want to drive forwards. We see the way that Martinez does it. Martinez drives forwards into gaps. Yeah, he just does it off the cuff.
Compressed space.
He's another one who was judged, wasn't he, as well? He wasn't big enough to be a centre half, and he wasn't this and wasn't that. Who done? Oh, it was Jamie Carragher again, weren't it? So Jamie Carragher doesn't like South Americans. So
Who played for United?
Yeah, played for United. Yeah, forgot that bit. So that's what I would look at. They're the two what I would look at, what he can do. I mean, people look at Mason Mount wasn't on the bench. I read somewhere why he wasn't on the bench for some reason, but he's going to be fine there. There's nowhere where I can see Mason Mount making a difference. I really can't see. You can look at him, bring him in for Ahmad. He's not going to affect the left back like Ahmad. He's not going to do it. He'll run. No about his work rate, everything. You don't have to say he would. You know he's going to give you everything. Is he going to jink? Is he going to cause a problem in the box on the left-hand side? Would you put him in the middle? No. Maybe. I mean, you look at him. The only role he can play is where Bruno's playing at the moment, because that's the kind of role he was kind of playing for Chelsea when he had that good 18 months.
Yeah.
You know, that's all that's there for him at this moment in time. And, and that's a bit of a player for 50 million and big wages as well.
Yeah. Maybe Xerxes or Mount can learn to play left back, and then there's a chance for him to get inside. By the end of the season, it's like Luke Shaw somehow gets nailed on. Incredible, like, to think of the money that United have spent, and to think they've spent a fair amount on full-backs as well, but they're still stuck with Luke Shaw. And depending on him, it might be better if he picks up a knock and forces Heaven to come into the side, or something different to force Carrick into a different kind of solution. Because we've seen it all before. But as long as it's doing all right at the moment, it can't advocate for too many changes. That's the rule that we've been sticking to on this podcast, and the rule that we will, even though we've campaigned for a couple of changes there for next week against Spurs. We will be back to talk about that game against Spurs. Hopefully another win for United. And have a great week, guys. Thanks for listening, and thanks for watching.